under the flickering lights of a rain-soaked thrift boutique on the edge of a small town near Seattle. A single father named Leo Carter stood quietly between racks of second-hand coats and forgotten wedding gowns. The store sign read Second Chances, and the name felt earned. Outside, rain streaked down the windows in silver threads, blurring the world beyond the glass. In front of him stood a girl, 17, trembling, clutching a champagne-colored prom dress to her chest like it was the only thing holding her together. The chiffon fabric shimmered softly under the buzzing fluorescent lights. It had a modest neckline and a tiny tear along the hem, carefully stitched but still visible if you looked close enough. The clerk behind the counter crossed her arms, impatience tightening her mouth. The girl's eyes glistened, humiliation blooming red across her cheeks. Leo didn't think. He stepped forward, reached into his worn leather wallet, and placed $90 on the counter before anyone could say a word. "I'll take it," he said simply. The receipt printed. The dress was folded into a thin plastic bag. Leo walked over, set it gently in the girl's hands. "Sometimes things get torn," he said quietly. "Doesn't mean they're not worth keeping." Then he walked out into the rain with his 8-year-old daughter Mia trailing behind him, leaving no name, no expectation of thanks, no trace. He told himself it was nothing, but it wasn't nothing. The girl was Audrey Harrington, daughter of billionaire Richard Harrington, and that small receipt would unlock doors neither of them knew existed. The town wore rain like a second skin. Mist clung to garage windows. The smell of motor oil mixed with wet asphalt in the early mornings. Leo's day always began before sunrise. In a kitchen too small for pride but just right for honesty, he cracked eggs into a pan while Mia sat at the table, brown hair tied in a ponytail, sketching animals in the margins of her math homework. The refrigerator hummed. The clock ticked. Leo plated eggs and toast, poured orange juice, and set breakfast down without ceremony. His hands were scarred from years of turning wrenches. His hazel eyes, though tired, were warm. "Do the right thing even when no one's watching," he told Mia as they walked the bus stop. "Especially then," she repeated solemnly before climbing aboard. Leo watched until the bus disappeared, then headed to Carter's garage, a modest shop on the edge of town. He worked beside his friend Finn, broad-shouldered, quick to laugh. They spoke little, but when they did, it mattered. Finn knew Leo drove rideshare at night to keep Mia in a decent school district. Knew he hadn't taken a vacation in 2 years. Knew he would give his last dollar to someone who needed it more. That was just who he was. Across town, Audrey's morning unfolded inside a mansion that felt more like a museum than a home. Marble countertops gleamed beneath recessed lighting. A housekeeper placed fruit and yogurt before her. Audrey didn't touch it. Her father, Richard Harrington, paced near a floor-to-ceiling window, phone pressed to his ear, voice clipped and sharp as he discussed acquisitions and board meetings. He didn't ask how she slept, didn't ask about school. He didn't ask anything. Richard measured love and provision. Control equal protection. Kindness was a soft liability. Audrey stared at her reflection in the polished table surface and wished, just once, someone would look at her and see more than a last name. At school, her father's wealth opened doors and built walls at the same time. Girls like Constance Vale, perfect hair, diamond earrings, a smile sharp as glass, treated Audrey like a curiosity. Poor little rich girl, they whispered. They didn't understand that being watched wasn't the same as being known. The thrift shop instant spread through school like wildfire. Constance had been there that day. She had laughed when Audrey forgot her wallet, had said, "Your dad could buy this whole store. Why are you slumming it?" And then a mechanic had stepped forward and quietly changed the script. Prom night arrived cold and drenched in rain. Audrey wore the champagne dress, hem mended with careful stitches she'd sewn herself. For a moment, in her bedroom mirror, she almost recognized the girl staring back. The gymnasium glittered with string lights and rented glamour. Audrey walked in alone. Whispers followed. Constance approached with a plastic cup of red punch. "Oh my God," she said sweetly. "You actually wore it." The punch tipped forward. Whether by accident or design, Audrey would never know. Red liquid splashed across champagne chiffon. Laughter rippled through the room. Principal Whitaker cleared his throat weakly. Let's all calm down. But no one stepped forward with a napkin. No one shielded her. Audrey ran. Rain soaked her. Makeup streaked down her face. She collapsed at a bus stop, shivering. A car pulled up. Hazard lights blinked. "You okay?" a low voice asked. She looked up. Leo. He didn't recognize her at first. Then he saw the dress. "You're the girl from the shop." She nodded. He draped his jacket over her shoulders. It smelled like coffee and engine grease and safety. "Let's get you somewhere dry." At a 24-hour diner, he ordered her hot chocolate and didn't ask questions. Eventually she whispered, "Why did you help me?" "Because you needed it," he said simply, "and nobody should feel ashamed for not having enough." She went home that night in his jacket. Her father never noticed the red-stained dress folded in her closet. The next morning, she found Leo's business card in the jacket pocket. Carter's garage. She took the bus. Inside the garage, Mia sat on a stool drawing while Leo worked under the hood of a pickup truck. "You're the dress girl," Mia exclaimed. Audrey laughed softly. "I am." She returned the jacket. Stayed an hour. Listened to Finn joke. Watched grease-streaked hands rebuild something broken. For the first time in months, she felt real. Then a black SUV pulled up outside. Richard Harrington stepped out, flanked by men in suits. "Get in the car," he ordered. "No," Audrey said, voice shaking but firm. Leo stepped forward, calm and steady. "Sir, I think your daughter made herself clear." Richard's jaw tightened. "Who do you think you are?" "Someone who treats people with respect," Leo replied. The SUV peeled away, but the confrontation wasn't over. The next day, headlines hit. Mechanic cozy with billionaire's daughter. A grainy photo of Audrey outside the garage. Business slowed. Customers canceled. Finn cursed the media. Leo shrugged, but the weight was there. At the mansion, Audrey was grounded, monitored, threatened with boarding school in Switzerland. Richard saw scandal. He didn't see the loneliness that drove her to seek kindness elsewhere. But something inside Audrey had hardened into resolve, and she began to plan. Summer came thick and bright. Audrey was sent to stay with an aunt in California, an exile disguised as concern. She turned 18 in July. The trust fund her late mother had established became legally hers. It wasn't billions, but it was enough. She spent nights researching vocational programs, scholarships, nonprofits that helped students without connections, students who worked after school, students whose parents patched together rent the way Leo patched engines. When she returned home in August, she walked into her father's study and said calmly, "I'm not going to Switzerland." Richard looked up slowly. "I'm starting a foundation," she continued, "using Mom's trust." He stiffened. "This is about that mechanic. This is about being the person Mom will be proud of." She left before he could answer. At the garage, Leo looked older, wearier, but steady as ever. "I need your help," Audrey said over coffee at the diner. She laid out her vision. Scholarships for working-class students pursuing trades, mechanics, welding, nursing, teaching. She wanted to call it the Carter Scholarship Program. Leo blinked. "After me? After what you taught me." He was quiet a long time. "Okay," he said finally, "but I help run it." "Deal." Gwen from the thrift shop volunteered to manage applications. Finn spread the word. Slowly, quietly, something took root, but Audrey had one more move. At Richard Harrington's annual charity gala in Seattle, crystal chandeliers glowed over tuxedos and couture gowns. Constance and her mother sparkled in diamonds. Principal Whitaker stood near the bar looking uncomfortable. Audrey stepped onto the stage unannounced. "I want to tell you a story," she began. The room quieted. "About a girl who went to a thrift store for a $90 dress. About a man who paid for it without asking her name." She paused. "That man is Leo Carter. A mechanic, a single father. Someone most of you would overlook." Silence deepened. "Tonight, I'm announcing the Carter Scholarship Program, funded by my mother's trust, for students who work hard but don't have the right last name." She looked directly at her father. "My mother believed wealth was a responsibility, not a trophy." Applause started slowly, then grew. Richard stood frozen. Afterward, he approached her. "You're just like her," he said quietly. Is that a bad thing? He shook his head. No, it wasn't an apology, but it was a beginning of one. In the months that followed, Richard changed in small, imperfect ways. He began showing up to dinner, began asking Audrey about her day. Eventually, he visited the garage. He extended his hand to Leo. I want to fund an expansion, he said gruffly, a vocational training center. Leo studied him. Why? Richard exhaled. Because my daughter is right. They shook. The Carter Harrington Vocational Center opened a year later, not with champagne and cameras, but with folding chairs and real people. Students filled the workshop, nervous, hopeful. On one wall hung the repaired champagne dress in a shadow box. A plaque beneath it read, "Some things are more beautiful because they've been repaired." Mia, now 9, gave tours. My dad paid for a dress once, she told wide-eyed kids. And look what happened. Audrey stood beside Leo, watching students rebuild engines. You did this, he told her. You reminded me I mattered, she replied. Across the room, Richard observed quietly, learning that legacy wasn't measured in skyscrapers or stock prices, but in doors opened, hands extended. The sun set through workshop windows, casting long gold beams across oil-streaked floors and hopeful faces. It had started with $90, with a choice, with stepping forward when someone else stepped back. And in the end, that was the only legacy that mattered. Not headlines, not empires, but lives made better. One dress, one act, one chance at a time.